Hi everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Jacqueline and this is Low Carblish, the channel where we make low carb versions of our favorite high carb foods in order to keep our blood sugars down and help reverse type 2 diabetes. Today we are going to be making diabetic friendly lasagna and you are going to be amazed at how good this tastes. Now for the noodles today we're going to be using a product called Crepini egg wraps. And I bought these as wraps originally because I was going to try and make sandwiches or whatever out of it. They don't work for me for that. They're very thin and very flimsy, and they have an eggy taste when you're using them in that capacity. But they work great as a noodle substitute for this lasagna, so I'm going to show you how to use those today. And I'm going to put the recipe down in the description, so don't worry about the amounts and everything. So I've got a pound of ground beef that I'm going to be using. I've got 3.5 ounces of grated mozzarella cheese, and this is cheese that I grated myself from a block. And I do that because the cheeses that come pre-grated in the bags, they put potato starch on them to keep them from sticking together, so it adds carbs to your cheese, and I just prefer not to do that. But you could use the bagged cheese if you want to. And then we're going to put some cottage cheese. We're going to use ricotta cheese. We've got a cup of the Rayo's marinara sauce, and the DeGrozo marinara sauce and the Rayo's are about similar, so if you can't find the Rayo's but you can find the DeGrozo, it's going to be about the same. And then we're going to have 2 eggs and about 1.5 teaspoons of Italian sauce seasoning, and then salt and pepper to taste. So let me get set up here and get my pan over here and we'll get started, and I'll show you how to do this. Okay guys, so the first thing we've got to do is get our cheese mixture put together. So I'm going to put the ricotta in here and add the cottage cheese in with that. And then we're going to use about half of the grated cheese, the grated mozzarella in here with this as well. And then the 2 eggs. A spoon here so I can break my eggs up. And then 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. And then I'm just salt and peppering to taste, and you can do that as well. You can leave it out if you don't like it. I like a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper with it. Don't put too much salt because there is some salt in the cheese, but I do add some. And we're just going to mix all this up until the cheese is combined with the eggs. And this is going to be a great cheese filling in our lasagna. And this makes a really filling meal. It makes 6 servings. I'm using an 8x8 pan, and you're going to get 6 servings out of it. And it is really a filling entree to your meal. And it's 507 calories per serving and under 5 carbs. So it's a good recipe. Alright, so we've got our cheese straightened up and ready to go. And I'm going to set this aside, get my 8x10 baking pan, or not 8x10, it's 8x8, y'all. I'm going to get my 8x8 baking pan, and then I'll be back and we'll put this together. Okay guys, so we're going to take the wraps out and get started making our noodles for our lasagna. I did want to tell you guys one thing, that I bought the cauliflower wraps. They have one that's made with some wheat and other things that are in the egg wraps, and I tried those and they shot my blood sugar up. So you can try them and just be sure to check your blood sugar after you do it, but my suggestion is go with the cauliflower because I didn't have any issues with that. So we're going to get started here. We've got to cut some of these in half to do our bottom layer. And I'm just going to take the whole thing out of the package because we're going to use the whole package. But you can see, in fact I think the bottom one just ripped. You can see how thin these are. And that's why I didn't like them for wraps, was they're thin and the flavor's kind of eggy for wraps. Yep, there's the rest of the piece that fell off. So we'll just use that. We'll use that on the top here, and it'll be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these in layers of 2. So I'm going to piece this one back together because we need the whole package to make the lasagna noodles. So I'm going to piece this one back together and cut it in half and then show you how I layer them in the pan. Because the bottom layer, I like to use 2 just to give it a little more stability. But then the 2 following layers are just going to be single layers. So 1 pack of this is going to be enough. So I've started cutting them in half. And so I lay them in my pan. And this is an 8x8 pan. I lay them in my pan with the part that I cut facing out to the pan so that it fits better and I have better coverage. And like I say, it's a layer of 2, and you've got to really check as you're doing it because they are so thin. Sometimes they'll stick together and you'll get more than one. Okay, so this is another layer of 2, and cut them right across the middle in half, and then layer on the bottom here and on the bottom here. And then I take a single one and cut it in half because there's only 12 pieces in the entire package, so we're going to be using all 12 pieces. So the last one on the bottom, cut it in half and just lay it to cover up that hole. Okay, and so what we're going to start doing now is layering the lasagna. So I'm going to put a little bit of the sauce on the bottom here. And you don't have to worry about oiling the pan or anything. The sauce is not going to stick on the pan. It just works beautifully. I don't know why I don't need oil, but I don't. So if you're more comfortable, you can spray your pan, but I can't guarantee how that'll work because I haven't used any oil. I don't need it, and it does beautifully without it. Okay, so we've got the sauce in. And the next thing we're going to do is layer some of our ground beef. And you're going to use about half in each layer. We're making 2 layers of beef and cheese, and then we'll have another layer just to cover it up. So you can be very generous with your beef in your layers because you're only making 2 layers out of the whole thing of beef that we've got here. And this beef is just ground beef that I cooked with a little bit of salt and pepper and some garlic salt. Or garlic powder, not garlic salt. But if you wanted to add more Italian seasoning or even other seasonings that you like, that would work perfectly fine too. So you can see here, you get a nice amount of beef on this layer, and the next layer will have nice layers too. So then I'm going to put about half of our cheese mixture, and again you can see we've got a nice size amount of cheese. And we're going to just pour that over and smooth it out over and around. And y'all, this is so good. And it's, you know, fall's coming up, and this is a great dish to make in the fall. I like lasagna all year long, but it's really good in the fall when it's nice and cold outside and you're hungry and you're wanting some comfort food. Lasagna is a great choice. Oh, we got some cheese hanging there. Okay. Alright, so that's our first layer. So now we're through cutting these until we get to the very top layer. But we're going to take 1 wrap and put here. And we're going to do 4 of these to make our second layer here. And I'm just trying to be very careful and make sure I'm just picking up 1 because we need all of it. And the top one we're going to have to cut 1 in half. And I know it doesn't look like they're going to be the noodles, but trust me, they are. Alright, so we're going to go back in and add some more of our sauce. And I do about 1/3 of a cup on each layer because I'm saving some out for the top layer as well, to cover that before we put our final bit of cheese on the top of that. And just spread it out really well. Get it evenly distributed. And then we're going to put the rest of our cheese mixture on here. and get it all scraped out, because you know how I feel about that, y'all. Gotta scrape these bowls out and get all of the goodness out. Plus, I like to be as accurate as possible with my macros, so that's the main reason I like to scrape everything out. But then who likes to waste food, you know? So it's a win-win. All right, so we've got the cheese out there, and let me smooth this out. And y'all, this is gonna be so bubbly and so gooey gooey delicious when it's done. And this cheese is gonna cook up nice and thick like regular lasagna cheese, because that's what it is. Okay, so I should have put the meat on first, but put the cheese on first, but it's not gonna hurt a thing. So we'll go put the beef on top of the cheese. Just get that spread out on this layer like the other layer. Okay, so since we have the last 3 crepinis that are in the container here, we're going to have to cut one of them in half. But the first 2, we're going to just layer on like we did the last layer. Just lay them like this. And like this, and then we'll cut this one in half to cover the other half of the pan. And it's going to look beautifully. Okay, so now we've got all of our crepini layered. Get that out of the way here. And I'm going to finish up with the rest of the sauce over the top. Some of this around here. Get a little bit on everything and everybody. Okay, and now we're going to take the other half of the grated mozzarella that we put in with the cheese mixture and spread that over the top here. And I've got my oven preheating at 350, so I'm getting ready to put this in the oven. And it's going to bake for about 35 minutes in my oven. Your oven may be a little hotter or a little cooler, but when you see it bubbling up on the edges, it's ready. So we're going to put this in the oven, and we're going to bake it at 35 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay guys, so the lasagna's been in the oven for about 35 minutes. I'm getting ready to take it out and let you see what it looks like here. And that is bubbling, melty, cheesy deliciousness. And I usually let this sit for about 10 or 15 minutes before I cut it. So I just wanted you to see it right when it comes out of the oven, and I'll be back in just a few minutes and we'll cut it and plate it up. Okay y'all, so this has been resting for about 15 minutes, and we're going to take the knife and we're going to cut 2 lines down this way. And you guys, this is so good. And then 1 line down the middle, and that's going to give us our 6 servings. And I'm going to try to get a pretty piece out, and if I miss, then we'll do it again. Lasagna is kind of like pie sometimes. You try your best to get the pretty piece out, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. But I am going to try. I think I'm actually going to try to get one of these middle pieces out just so you can see all the layers. Pray, pray, pray. Here we go. Here we go. And look at that, you guys. Doesn't that look fabulous? And let me tell you, it tastes good too. So let me get over to the table and we'll do a taste test, and then you guys can make your own. Okay guys, so now it's time for the taste test, and I'm telling y'all, this is some kind of delicious lasagna. You got the cheese and the meat and the eggs cooked up. The crepini noodles are fabulous. They really do make a super substitute for regular lasagna noodles with 0 carbs. So let's have a taste. Y'all, if you love lasagna and you're looking for a low carb version, this is it. 507 calories, less than 5 carbs. You could put this and pair it with a salad. You could even get away with 1 slice of your low carb bread with it if you wanted to, and just enjoy a delicious Italian meal. All that comfort food that we love to eat when it's cold. I think you guys are really going to like this. So if you enjoy the content that you see here, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, because it really does help the algorithm for YouTube, for other people who have just been diagnosed with type 2 to find me and get the help they need. Also, if you are enjoying the recipes here, please subscribe so you don't miss any of the goodies I make. And thank you so much for coming to have dinner with me tonight. I hope you'll try this recipe and let me know how you like it. And just have a fantastic evening. See you next time. Bye-bye.